Why exactly is Horizon Zero Dawn getting a remaster? That's the question on everyone's mind.
Because Sony wants money and they think you'll pay for anything, basically. They have no new ideas, and they're not really interested in pushing gameplay forward, or gaming forward for that matter. They really just want to push the nicest graphics possible on the safest gameplay and safest concepts imaginable so they can market them really easily to people who don't actually play games or want to see this medium pushed forward. I think the question was rhetorical, but that's the answer.
Surely there are older games in worse shape and are therefore much more deserving of a remaster.
Yeah. And there's like a million of them in Sony's library.
Yeah, it's true. Horizon Zero Dawn still looks and plays pretty great, so why the remaster? Is this just a shameless money grab by Sony?
Yes.
In a not so subtle attempt to sell more PS5 Pros?
Yeah, and I'm not entirely clear on how they see this one ending. At the time that I'm making this video, which would be Thursday, October 3rd, this is what the like to dislike ratio on the reveal trailer looks like. So I'm not super clear on where Sony thinks they're going with this. I mean, Bloodborne was right there. Like, it was right there.
Yeah, probably. But so what? That doesn't mean that you as a consumer can't enjoy it or can't benefit from it.
Oh, very interesting opening there. Is this just a cash grab? Is this just a pointless product? Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy it. Oh, well, good golly, as long as we enjoy things, then by all means, it should exist at $70. Or sorry, $50. Thank you, oh gracious Sony, for pricing this at $50 instead of the usual $70. How kind you are to us. It's mindsets like this that are the exact reason this game exists in the first place. Is this pointless? Is this a cash grab? Yes, it is. But that doesn't mean you can't enjoy it. So be happy. Be happy about the products.
Don't ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next product.
Also, just so we're on the same page of what kind of a channel we're looking at here, I'm just going to scroll through the videos, just going to scroll through the uploads. I'm not bashing you, Chaz Plays Games, for liking the Horizon games or for making content on the Horizon games. Someone has to do it, apparently. But I just want everyone to be on the same page that this is the kind of mindset we've got going into a video called Why Horizon Zero Dawn Needs a Remaster, with no dislikes, shockingly. So I guess you have some really amazing arguments in store for us. Spoiler alert, he doesn't.
So I want to talk a little bit about the Horizon Zero Dawn remaster and why I think it's a really good thing, or at least not a completely terrible thing.
Is it a really good thing or not a completely terrible thing? Those are two wildly different adjectives. Those two things are not next to each other.
And some things that I'm hoping to see incorporated into the remaster.
Well, we know what is going to be incorporated into the remaster. They've told us what's going to be incorporated into the remaster. So it's a little weird for you to speculate when we literally know what's going to be there.
And whether or not you're a fan of the Horizon series, this is something to really be excited for.
Yeah, that's right. You should be really excited for it, even if you're not a fan of the series. Even if you're not a fan of the series, you should be really excited for the remaster of the series that you're not engaged with already. Hoo boy.
Now look, I love Horizon Zero Dawn. It is a masterpiece on so many different levels.
It's really not though, and I'm really tired of hearing that it is. If you think a game is a masterpiece because it looks pretty and feels good to, push the joystick and the player moves forward and they look really pretty when they do it. Like, there is nothing about the gameplay of Horizon Zero Dawn that pushes the medium forward. Can we at least agree on that? I'm not saying you can't enjoy the game. I'm not saying it's a bad game. But to say Horizon Zero Dawn is a masterpiece? This game has had zero impact on the industry. Zero impact on the gaming industry in ways other than graphics tech. If you think graphics tech is all that matters, that's all you need to see is really nice shiny blinky lights on screen, really realistic characters running around a landscape and doing nothing, then yeah, I'm sure this game is awesome. But to even suggest that this game is a masterpiece, truly, I don't understand it. I hope you'll tell us. I don't feel like you will.
I've played through it multiple times on both PS4 and PS5, and it's one of those games that every time you jump back into it, you're able to find something new, some hidden new detail or something in the story that pops out to you that never really stood out before.
Yes, you described open world games. Most of them will have this. I suggest playing more of them.
And the sheer size and scale of the open world is truly impressive. And maybe if you've only ever played Horizon Zero Dawn, it's kind of harder to wrap your mind around the idea of a remaster because it still looks and plays so great.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. That ding winner.
But there's no denying that the Forbidden West, Zero Dawn's direct sequel, is a step up in just about every way.
On consoles, maybe, but I fail to see what about Horizon Zero Dawn could not just be patched in to make it at that level. If The Witcher 3 could basically patch Witcher 3 Remastered into itself for free, I'm failing to see what about Zero Dawn, especially with the PS5 version that already exists and that was already enhanced from the PS4 version, I'm failing to see what Sony and Guerrilla couldn't have just patched into that version instead of releasing a whole remastered version. It's the same thing with Last of Us 2. Like, really, what can be done?
The combat system in particular is extremely fluid and flexible, and there's a surprising amount of depth to it. And the open world is absolutely massive and packed with all these cool little details that you wouldn't really even know unless you kind of stopped to look and pay attention to them.
Yes, the combat and the open world of Forbidden West are certainly, I'll give you that, those are a step up over Zero Dawn, at least in terms of like options and size. I'll give you that. I'm still not a fan of Forbidden West's gameplay, but I'll agree with you that in terms of the gameplay variety and the gameplay options and the refinement, that was a step up, yes. But we know that's not changing. We know that the gameplay of Zero Dawn is not changing in Zero Dawn Remastered. We know that for a fact. So why are you bringing this up? And same with the world size. Oh, Forbidden West's world is such a giant step up over Zero Dawn. How does that affect Zero Dawn Remastered? It doesn't.
And not to mention the graphics are just insanely good, especially when you're looking at the Burning Shores, the DLC to the Forbidden West, which was a PS5 exclusive and got to take full advantage of the PS5 hardware.
Burning Shores was PS5 exclusive? You might want to tell Sony that, because no, it wasn't.
Now, the story itself might not be quite as good or engaging as Zero Dawn, but I think that it compensates and makes up for it in a lot of other ways.
Yeah, I mean, you're a Horizon fan. Why would you care about story? Give me more blinky lights.
And once you've been spoiled by the Forbidden West, it's a little bit tough to step back and go back into Horizon Zero Dawn. I mean, visually, there is a significant difference between the two, and that's not to say that Zero Dawn looks bad by any stretch, it's just it looks a little bit dated compared to the Forbidden West and some of these other next-gen titles.
I mean, it really doesn't, though, unless you're looking at the PS4 version versus the PS5 version of Forbidden West, you know? But if you're looking at the PS5 version, the current version of Zero Dawn, or hell, even the PC version of Zero Dawn, compared to Forbidden West, I mean, you turn the UI off and you face Aloy away from me so I can't tell they changed the model. I cannot tell the difference, no. And that's not a bad thing. That's honestly a really impressive thing. Guerrilla are wizards. They absolutely deserve all the praise they get for the technical aspects of these games. But that's the whole point. That's the whole problem. Why are you putting resources into remastering this fucking thing? What can be done? Other than all the re-recorded dialogue and the redone cutscenes, that's just you inventing things for yourself to fix. Those weren't things that had to be done, or things that really, in a lot of perspectives, even needed to be done. Because I guarantee you, a lot of people are going to prefer the Zero Dawn versions of these cutscenes and these character models and these dialogue exchanges. That always happens. When you're re-recording these things, you're inevitably going to cause a split. And that's another thing, there's nothing wrong with that, but you say in your video title that this game needs a remaster. You said earlier in the video that even if you're not a fan of the series, that you should be excited for this. You're talking to me right now. You are trying to convince me I'm not invested in this series. And, I mean, so far, you've done nothing to change my mind. I'm gonna let you keep talking, but we're a little over 2 minutes into your video, and you're yet to make a solid point. You're yet to even blip my attention right now. And that's kind of the problem, because I would love to see some of Sony's other properties get this kind of attention, but they're just not for some reason.
And I think that was one of the biggest gripes when it came to the graphics in Zero Dawn, is that the facial animations just looked a little off and felt kind of stiff.
I mean, the new game is like that as well, because you've crossed over into the Uncanny Valley. Also, I'm watching the footage in the background of your video. It goes back to what I said. I genuinely cannot tell which game is going. Like, I can't tell when you switch from one game to the other. Like, unless I'm looking at Aloy's face, I genuinely cannot tell.
The lips didn't really seem to match the words that were being said, and the eyes just didn't seem to be looking in the right direction. But according to the PlayStation blog, we're getting 10 plus hours of re-recorded conversations, mocap, and countless graphical improvements to help bring the game into the same visual fidelity as Forbidden West.
I bring up The Witcher 3 again. The Witcher 3 patched a remastered version into itself for free. I'm failing to see how Sony can't do the same. Witcher 3 actually is a masterpiece, by the way. If we're talking about open world games that are masterpieces, The Witcher 3 is an actual masterpiece because it does more than just wow you visually. And I mean, if we want to be petty about this, The Witcher 3 is far more visually impressive than Horizon will ever be. because The Witcher 3 actually has personality in its visuals. But I know Sony guys are scared of RPGs that aren't called Final Fantasy, so I'll just move on.
I mean, this has me really excited, and this alone is probably worth the $10 that it's going to cost to upgrade from the PS4 version.
But is it worth $50? This is an argument that a lot of people made in favor of Last of Us 2 Remastered. Oh, why are you upset? It's just a $10 upgrade. No, it's a $10 upgrade for you. It's $50 for everyone else. Is it worth $10? Maybe. Is it worth $50? That's a question you might not answer, because it's kind of hard to answer that question. If you are a brand new player, if you've never played Horizon Zero Dawn, do you pay, what, $20 for a used copy at GameStop of the original version? Or do you pay $50 for the remastered version? Oh, but that's only if you have a disc drive on your PS5. If you want to buy the game digitally, it's $40 and $50. And this is why it's always so funny to me when people defend Sony's remasters by saying, oh, they're just $10. Why are you upset? It's just $10. Yeah, sure, the price just got jacked up astronomically for new players. And I thought one of the whole reasons to remaster a game in the first place was to bring in new players. But we won't talk about that. It's $10. It's $10. Don't you dare say it's more than $10. It's $10 for me, and that means it's $10 for everyone.
They actually dragged the actors back into the studio and made them put the mocap suits back on so they could re-record a ton of dialogue. I mean, that is not a light lift.
And it's also just so blatantly working backwards. Yeah, we want to re-release Horizon Zero Dawn. We want to remaster Horizon Zero Dawn. Well, we can't really do much to it graphically. How do we make this worth it? Get the actors back. Re-record all the mocap. Re-record all the cutscenes. Re-record all the dialogue. Do you want to touch the gameplay at all? No! No, we don't. We're Sony. Why would we touch gameplay?
So kudos to the Guerrilla team and anyone else that was involved for going that in depth and working so hard to give us an experience that might feel still pretty new, even if we've played through a game a couple times.
No, it will not feel new because the gameplay is going to be untouched. And I know this is a crazy concept, but the most important part of a video game is the gameplay.
Now, the blog also mentions a lot of improvements that seem to focus on the audio. It says that the audio experience will be significantly enhanced and they have completely revamped the sound mix.
I am failing to see how that could not have just been a patch.
Now, I always kind of assumed that it was just me or something having to do with my setup, but that was probably my biggest complaint with Zero Dawn when it came to like the overall bugginess of the game. The audio mix just sounded a little bit off.
Am I crazy, or are a lot of Sony guys doing this now? They praise the game relentlessly for years on end. They praise it, it's perfect, it's amazing, it's wonderful. And then when the remaster comes out and they're like, oh, we're adjusting the audio, you're like, you know what? The audio always was weird to me. And like the animations too. Like they're redoing the animations and the character models. And you're like, you know what? Those always bothered me. It's like, evidently, no, they didn't, though. They didn't bother you until just now when they said they're improving them. And you haven't even seen the improvements yet.
So this is probably something that's not going to immediately jump off the page to a lot of players, but I think it's going to make a really big difference when it comes to the overall immersive experience for the game. And for me, it's probably one of the things that I think is going to make one of the most noticeable differences.
Really? Yeah. Like what does that say about you when you think one of the most noticeable differences about this remaster is that they remixed the audio? This is a video game, and the most noticeable change in a re-release, a remaster, a paid remaster, the most noticeable change is going to be they remixed the audio. Shining endorsement right here. I'm going to run out to GameStop and get it day one.
Now, aside from the graphics and audio, it seems like we'll also be getting some updated accessibility features.
Accessibility features are nice. I actually fully endorse those. Wait a minute. Also, I just thought of something else. You just referred to the game as buggy. You said that a lot of these things in the remaster are going to fix in your own words, you said the overall bugginess of the original game. But now you're happy to pay for what you see as fixes? Wait a minute. So you're not paying for enhancements in your brain. In your brain, you're paying for fixes. Oh my... How is this convincing anyone? How is this supposed to get anybody excited? You're making this sound worse than it is.
And gameplay updates that were first introduced in the Forbidden West. Now, the blog doesn't expand on this too much, except to say that we'll be getting remappable controls, haptic cues, and various assist toggles.
Again, accessibility features are nice, but I'm also now noticing that that's like the second time you've called it the Forbidden West. You keep calling it the Forbidden West. It's just Forbidden West. Like, am I crazy? I have to Google this now. Like, yeah, no, it's just Forbidden West. It's not the Forbidden West. How do I know this and you don't?
But I'm genuinely hoping that we'll see some additional gameplay improvements that were also first introduced in Horizon Forbidden West.
Well, you're more than likely not going to, because they would have led with that, don't you think? If they were going to improve the gameplay, would they not have mentioned that in the gigantic blog post where they go over everything that's being adjusted in the remaster? New accessibility features are nice, but in terms of gameplay, that's really all that's changing.
I think it's probably too much at this stage to ask for a shield wing, although I'd bet that that's at the top of just about every player's list. I can't tell you how many times I've fallen to my death in Zero Dawn expecting my shield wing to be there to bail me out.
See, this is how I know you don't actually care about gameplay. You're asking for a whole new movement mechanic to be added to the original game, as if the entire game would not then have to be rebalanced around that. You're asking for a shield wing to be added to the original game for insanely enhanced traversal, but the original game's map was not designed for that kind of traversal. Of course you're not going to get it. And if you really like the original game as much as you do, I feel like you wouldn't actually want this, but you do, because it's not about gameplay to you. It's about just ticking boxes and adding checks. Adding like, my game has this, and it has this, and it has this. It doesn't matter how those things actually interact with each other. I just want them there. Like, I'll give you a fucking analogy. Modern Warfare 3, the new one. That game launched with with remakes of all the maps from the original Modern Warfare 2, right? But like 80% of those original maps that were really good in the original Modern Warfare 2 play like liquid ass in Modern Warfare 3 because there's a whole bunch of new movement mechanics and traversal mechanics that those maps were not built around. Another comparison. I love Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 is my favorite game of all time. I'm going to refrain from talking shit preemptively about the remake in this video. Be proud of me. I have some self-restraint today. But if you took the gameplay of, I don't know, Silent Hill Homecoming and put it in Silent Hill 2, it would be fucking nonsense. These are things that you understand when you actually play video games. And you don't just sit and play the same generic Sony open world slop over and over and over again. There is so much more to be done with gaming, but this is what they're putting money into, and this is what you want from them. You're getting exactly what you want, and that's kind of what bugs me as a gamer.
But that seems like it'd probably be a little bit too much of a development lift for a remaster, and then you'd also have to figure out a way to incorporate into the story, and then how would that play into the Forbidden West when you're also reintroducing the shield wing in the story?
You're so close. You're so close to saying the word gameplay, or the word balance. You're right there, but you won't say it, because you don't care.
That one seems like it'd be a bit of a stretch, and if they're going for some level of parity between the two games, I doubt it's something that we'll see. But fingers crossed, hopefully we at least get a stash.
I mean, there's literally mods for that in the PC version of the original game, but Sony is seemingly pulling the original game from sale on PC in favor of the remaster, because fuck you and your mods. For the players, am I right?
Probably my biggest complaint going back into Zero Dawn in terms of the overall gameplay is just the inventory management can be such a pain.
I thought you said this game was a masterpiece, and now you've just been going on and on about how you have a bunch of gameplay gripes, but you still think it's a masterpiece. And I get that you can have gameplay gripes and still think a game is a masterpiece. I just mentioned Silent Hill 2. That game has that was a game that has more gameplay gripes than I could list, and I still think it's a masterpiece. Because I think those gameplay shortcomings all serve the common purpose of the game, which is to make you feel vulnerable and awkward. But what you're describing here with Zero Dawn are just gameplay gripes, gameplay issues, gameplay oversights, gameplay sloppiness. There's nothing wrong with games having those things. Those are reminders that these games are made by human beings. I just think the way that you describe the game and then the way that you elaborate on those descriptions are very out of sync with each other.
You're constantly having to leave loot behind because there's not enough room in your inventory.
Okay, that's not an oversight. That's a design decision. Like, am I crazy? Are we complaining about inventory management now? I thought you were complaining about the way the inventory works, but like inventory limits? Is that not part of an open world game? Like every open world game, you can't carry a whole fucking Costco in your back pocket. You have to have some semblance of risk reward, some kind of pro-conning with inventory limits. I thought you were actually about to make a point about gameplay, and then you just flew off somewhere else.
You definitely have to do a lot more farming in Zero Dawn in terms of just raw materials. So hopefully they find a way to bring the stash into Horizon Zero Dawn, which would make the overall inventory management just significantly easier. Or maybe they give us upgraded pouches so that we can upgrade them to another level and we can store more materials. Either way, I'm hoping we see something there.
I do think it's funny that some of the most popular mods for Horizon Zero Dawn are inventory reworks. I don't know. I think that's comical. Carry on.
And some other nice to have features that I think would be really good to incorporate into Zero Dawn are things like quick pickup or auto pickup of items. This is such a simple thing that makes such a big difference. And again, going back into Zero Dawn, it just makes it a little bit annoying when you have to stop and reach down and wait for the pickup animation every time you need to pick up something.
We keep talking about theoreticals. Like they literally posted a blog post. They posted a gigantic essay about all the things they were changing, all the things they were enhancing for the new game. Nowhere in that blog post are gameplay tweaks mentioned or gameplay alterations, advancements mentioned. So I just think it's weird that you led into this video saying that everyone should be excited about this, and now you're just talking in hypotheticals. You could tell me why I should be excited based on the things we know are coming, but as someone who doesn't care about this franchise, it's weird that you're trying to convince me to care about this franchise based on things that are not confirmed and ignoring things that are confirmed.
And transmog is another thing that was introduced in the Forbidden West that I hope we'll see in the remaster.
Again, the Forbidden West. Why do you call it the Forbidden West?
This again is one of those really simple things that's just nice to have the ability to swap out your appearance of an outfit that still keeps the perks and benefits of the outfit you want to use.
So, cosmetic things. That's what matters the most, I know.
And another thing that I'd love to see is the ability to switch between night and day. In the Forbidden West, you can rest at shelters and change between day and night. Personally, I just don't like playing games at nighttime. I get that it makes sense in terms of adding realism to the open world, and it would be weird if it was always daytime. And for whatever reason, I feel like the clock in Zero Dawn is just a little off. I feel like I'm always kind of playing the game at night, or you start a mission in the daytime and it always ends when you're at night.
Yes, that's the passage of time. I started a mission in day and then it went to night by the time I finished it. Yeah, and if you started in the night, it would go to day. Thanks for explaining that.
So yeah, the ability to change the time of day would be really nice, or if they could figure out a way to just make the day cycle longer and the night cycle shorter, I think that would be good as well.
Because why would we have a consistent game world? Why would we have a consistent game world? I don't want it there. I don't like how it looks. I don't like how the consistent game world looks. Change it. I swear, all the diehard Horizon fans are like this. Literally nothing matters other than how the thing looks.
But what's on your wish list of gameplay mechanics that you would like to see in the remaster? If you could pick one thing, or maybe even a couple of things, and they could work it into the game, what would be at the top of your list? Definitely be sure to let me know in the comments.
I want a double jump, and I want a shotgun with a grapple hook on the end. Oh, that wouldn't fit with the story? That wouldn't fit with the game world? Oh, I didn't think that mattered until now.
Now, another reason why I think this remaster is a good thing is that, like it or not, Horizon 3 is probably a really long way off. Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West released 5 years apart. So you figure if the Forbidden West came out in 2022...
Again, why do you keep calling it that? Why do you keep calling it the Forbidden West? It's just bugging me now. I shouldn't be more familiar with these game titles than you. I mix these two titles up frequently. Like almost every single video where I'm talking about one of the Horizon games, I call it the other one just without thinking about it. But you know what I have literally never said? The Forbidden West. I have never spoken those words. But you've made like 50 million videos on this franchise. How am I better at saying the title than you?
So 2026, 2027, maybe even 2028, I'd say is probably a safe bet for when we're going to see Horizon 3.
Would have been sooner if they weren't working on this, don't you think?
And honestly, yeah, that seems like an eternity away. But at the same time, good. I think I speak for a lot of gamers when I say, take as much time as you need and just make a really good game. Personally, I'd rather see one amazing Horizon game every 5 years than something like Assassin's Creed where we get, a mediocre one every year or two.
I think it's funny that you bash Ubisoft open world games because if we're being honest, Horizon Zero Dawn is just an above average Ubisoft open world game. The format is almost exactly the same.
But with such a long wait in between releases, at least this remaster gives us something. It might not be something completely new, but at least it gives us something fresh and fun to talk about.
So it's not completely new, but it's fresh. It's not new, but it's fresh. You know, words mean things still.
And no, working on this remaster doesn't push the release date to Horizon 3 back any further than it normally would be. It looks like Guerrilla has been working with Nixxes, which is another developer that Sony acquired specifically to work on game ports and remasters.
And you could have assigned them to Bloodborne, or Demon's Souls, or the old God of War games, or the older Uncharted games, or the Infamous games, or the Resistance games, or the Killzone games. You bought a whole ass studio for ports and remasters, and this is what you use them on.
They were the ones that brought Horizon Forbidden West to PC, as well as Ghost of Tsushima, which released on PC just a few months ago. So we're not getting this remaster at the expense of Horizon 3. So if you have that Horizon itch, which I know I do, this at least gives us something to kind of bide our time and hold us over while we sit patiently and wait for Horizon 3.
That's just not true, though. That's just blatantly not true. I'm not saying that Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, drastically pushed back Horizon 3, but it didn't do nothing to Horizon 3. Because it's not like Nixxes is the only one working on this. Guerrilla and Nixxes are working on this. Guerrilla is putting resources into this. You said yourself that they brought back all the old actors, and they're redoing the motion cap and redoing all the audio and everything and redoing all the cutscenes. Again, I'm not saying that Horizon 3 is now 5 extra years off because of this, but it's certainly some ways further off than it would have been. That's undeniable. That's how game development works. And that's part of why it's so obnoxious that this was greenlit.
And yeah, if you have bumps or hives or anything, that's probably not the Horizon itch. You should definitely get that checked out.
I don't get the joke. I don't get the joke.
Okay, and one final reason why I think this remaster is a good thing is that it's going to give new players an excuse to pick up Horizon and get involved in the Horizon community.
I mean, a new game would have done that as well.
Now, I've been doing my channel for almost 2 years at this point, and I've covered a handful of games other than Horizon, and I can safely say that the Horizon gaming community is probably one of the most positive gaming communities out there.
Well, yeah, they're not bothered by gameplay. Of course they are.
Artix and the other Horizon creators, as well as the Guerrilla team, have worked really hard to just make the Horizon gaming community one of the few bright spots in terms of games.
Guerrilla doesn't control their community. You can have the nicest developers of all time in the most toxic community. You can have complete asshead developers in a really positive community, also known as the world of Escape from Tarkov. Guerrilla didn't have anything to do with whether or not their community is nice to one another. That's just an odd thing to say.
So anything that will bring attention to the game and introduce new players to Horizon and get them involved in the Horizon community, I think is just a really good thing. And it makes sense that if players are going to start with Horizon Zero Dawn and then make their way through the Forbidden West, they're going to want an experience that feels and looks consistent. And ultimately, I imagine that'll also play into Horizon 3, where you'll have this 3-game trilogy.
Trilogies are 3 games, yes.
That you can play that just feels like one long game or a natural continuation of the series.
Trilogies are natural continuations. Yes, that's generally how trilogies work.
So all in all, while this remaster probably isn't necessary, I think it's a really good thing. And I, for one, am here for it. I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, but what are your thoughts on the Horizon Zero Dawn remaster?
I think I've made them perfectly clear by this point. This was rough. It's been a minute since I did a video response like this. I'm struggling to find a closing point or a closing thought or anything, really. I just don't get it. This just feels so forced. You know what I mean? The hype for this game, the excitement for this game, the finding of positive aspects of this game, it's the only word I can think of is forced. I don't feel like you actually understand why you're excited for this. I feel like you have to be. And you're working backwards from there. Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered gets announced. You're like, new Horizon content, I'm excited. Wait, why am I excited? Oh yeah, this, and this. It's just backwards, you know? It's just so bizarre. Anyways, toodles.